in which our lovers begin to learn the consequences of their actions. Chapter 23. On Monday, there was the usual meeting of the Commission of June 2nd. Alexey Alexandrovitch entered the meeting room, greeted the members and the chairman as usual, and took his seat, placing his hand on the papers prepared before him. Among these papers were the references he needed and the outline of the statement he intended to make. However, he did not need any references. He remembered everything, and found it unnecessary to go over in his memory what he had planned to say. He knew that when the time came and he saw the face of his adversary before him, vainly trying to assume an indifferent expression, his speech would flow of itself better than he could now prepare it. He felt that the content of his speech was so great that every word would be significant. Meanwhile, listening to the usual report, he had a most innocent, inoffensive look. No one, looking at his white hands with their swollen veins, their long fingers so tenderly touching both edges of the sheet of white paper lying before him, and his head bent to one side with its expression of fatigue, would have thought that from his mouth there would presently pour words that would cause a terrible storm, would make the members shout, interrupting each other, and the chairman call for order. When the report was over, Alexey Alexandrovitch announced in his quiet, thin voice that he was going to give some of his reflections on the subject of the settlement of racial minorities. All attention turned to him. He cleared his throat and, without looking at his adversary, but choosing, as he always did when making a speech, the first person sitting in front of him, a mild little old man who never expressed any opinion in the commission, began to expound his considerations. When it came to the fundamental and organic law, the adversary jumped up and began to object. Stremov, also a member of the commission and also cut to the quick, began to justify himself, and the meeting generally became stormy. But Alexey Alexandrovitch triumphed, and his proposal was accepted. 3 new commissions were appointed, and the next day, in a certain Petersburg circle, there was no other talk than that of this meeting. Alexey Alexandrovitch's success was even greater than he had expected. The next morning, Tuesday, on waking up, he recalled with pleasure the previous day's victory, and could not help smiling, though he wished to look indifferent when the office manager, wishing to flatter him, told him about the rumors that had reached him concerning what had happened in the commission. Busy with the office manager, Alexey Alexandrovitch completely forgot that it was Tuesday, the day he had appointed for Anna Arkadyevna's arrival, and was unpleasantly surprised when a servant came to announce her arrival to him. Anna arrived in Petersburg early in the morning. A carriage was sent to fetch her, in accordance with her telegram, and therefore Alexey Alexandrovitch might have known of her arrival. But when she arrived, he did not meet her. She was told that he had not come out yet, and was busy with the office manager. She asked that her husband be told of her arrival, went to her boudoir, and began to unpack her things, expecting him to come to her. But an hour went by, and he did not come. She went out to the dining room under the pretext of giving orders, and spoke loudly on purpose, expecting him to come there. But he did not come, though she heard him walk to the door of the study to see the office manager off. She knew that he would soon leave for work as usual, and she would have liked to see him before then, in order to have their relations defined. After taking a few steps round the drawing-room, she resolutely went to him. When she entered his study, he was sitting in his uniform, apparently ready to leave, leaning his elbows on the small table and gazing dejectedly in front of him. She saw him before he saw her, and she realized that he was thinking about her. Seeing her, he made as if to get up, changed his mind. Then his face flushed, something Anna had never seen before, and he quickly got up and went to meet her, looking not into her eyes but higher, at her forehead and hair. He went up to her, took her by the hand, and asked her to sit down. "I'm very glad you've come," he said, sitting down next to her, and obviously wishing to say something. He faltered. Several times he tried to begin speaking, but stopped. Although, while preparing himself for this meeting, she had taught herself to despise and accuse him, she did not know what to say, and felt sorry for him. And the silence went on like that for quite some time. "Is Seryoja well?" he said, and without waiting for an answer added, "I won't dine at home today, and I must leave at once." "I wanted to go to Moscow," she said. "No, you did very, very well to come," he said, and again fell silent. Seeing that he was unable to begin talking, she began herself. "Alexei Alexandrovitch," she said, looking up at him and not lowering her eyes under his gaze, directed at her hair, "I'm a criminal woman. I'm a bad woman, but I am the same as I said I was then, and I've come to tell you that I cannot change anything." "I did not ask you about that," he said suddenly, looking straight into her eyes, resolutely and with hatred. "I had supposed as much." Under the influence of anger, he apparently regained complete command of all his abilities. "But, as I then said and wrote to you," he went on in a sharp, thin voice, "I now repeat that I am not obliged to know it. I ignore it. Not all wives are so kind as you are to hasten to tell their husbands such pleasant news." He especially emphasized the word pleasant. "I ignore it as long as it is not known to society, as long as my name is not disgraced, and therefore I only warn you that our relations must be such as they have always been, and that only in the case of your compromising yourself would I have to take measures to protect my honor." "But our relations cannot be as they've always been," Anna began in a timid voice, looking at him in fear. When she saw again those calm gestures, heard that piercing, childlike and mocking voice, her loathing for him annihilated the earlier pity, and she was merely frightened, but wished at all costs to understand her situation. "I cannot be your wife when she began. He laughed a spiteful, cold laugh. "It must be that sort of life you've chosen has affected your notions. I respected or despised the one and the other so much. I respect your past and despise the present, that I was far from the interpretation you have given to my words." Anna sighed and lowered her head. "However, I do not understand having as much independence as you do," he went on, becoming excited, "telling your husband straight out about your infidelity and finding nothing reprehensible in it, as it seems. How you find it reprehensible to fulfill the duties of a wife towards your husband." "Alexei Alexandrovitch, what do you want from me?" "I want that I not meet that man here, and that you behave in such a way that neither society nor the servants can possibly accuse you. That you not see him, it doesn't seem too much, and for that you will enjoy the rights of an honest wife without fulfilling her duties. That is all I have to say to you. Now it is time for me to go. I will not dine at home." He got up and went to the door. Anna also got up. With a silent bow, he let her pass. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.